Everybody always wants to know who is going to take over the MAGA movement when Donald Trump is no longer around, either through political retirement, constitutional term limits, or his decaying body finally saying enough is enough. Well, the answer is not exactly that simple. First and foremost, the MAGA movement's half dead as it is right now, so I don't know that there's anything left to inherit. But of course, the heir apparent would be Vice President JD Vance. But according to new reports, Donald Trump himself doesn't think JD Vance is the guy to carry on the torch, and Trump has been privately bashing Vance for months. More in just a second, but first, a quick word from today's video sponsor. One of the easiest ways to keep people misinformed is not by hiding the story completely. It's by keeping the story visible while shifting everyone's attention to the least important part of it. You can see that in this Virginia congressional map case now heading to the Supreme Court. Some outlets are covering the actual issue, whether a voter-approved redistricting plan can be restored. Others are making the story about spelling mistakes in the filing like that's somehow the real thing people should care about. Same event, same facts, but a completely different sense of what matters and what doesn't. That's why I recommend Ground News. It's a website and app that pulls together reporting from across the political spectrum so you can compare headlines side by side, see the bias distribution of the coverage, check the factual ratings of the sources, and even see who owns the outlets behind the reporting. What I like about it is that it helps you catch when coverage is being used to distract instead of inform. You can see which outlets are focusing on the substance, which ones are pushing a narrative, and which ones are steering people away from the real issue entirely. Ground News also has a blind spot feed, which highlights stories that are being underreported by one side of the political spectrum. That's especially useful if you want to know not just how a story is being covered, but which stories your usual media bubble may be skipping altogether. You can also personalize your feed by interest so it's easier to keep up with issues you actually care about. So go to ground.news/Farron or scan my QR code. Using my link gets you 40% off the Ground News Vantage plan, and you can also gift a subscription directly through Ground News. I see Ground News as one of the best ways to consume news, and I definitely recommend checking it out. So over the weekend, the New York Times published a major story. They had spoken to more than a dozen insiders within the Trump administration, so more than a dozen people, and they all told the same story about how Donald Trump doesn't seem to even like JD Vance, let alone want him to take over the mantle as the king of MAGA. So, what are Donald Trump's gripes with JD Vance? And for the record, it's actually not just Donald Trump, it's also Susie Wiles, Trump's chief of staff, that doesn't think JD Vance is up to snuff on that. So, there's three big problems that Trump and his staff have with JD Vance. The first one, and this is apparently something Donald Trump brings up all the time, is that he's kind of clumsy. Because as everybody remembers, a year ago, when they had the college football national champion Ohio State team visit the White House, JD Vance fumbled the trophy on live TV in front of everybody. Okay? That is embarrassing, but does that mean he can't take over MAGA because he's clumsy? I mean, if that's one of the criteria, then Trump himself kind of needs to abdicate the throne there, right? The other thing that pisses Trump off about JD Vance that he complains about a lot is he takes too many vacations. Donald Trump is mad that somebody else doesn't seem to be working that much. Now, I don't disagree with him. I do think JD Vance is, jet-setting around the country, but then again, the vice president doesn't have a ton of stuff to do. But for Donald Trump to think somebody takes too many vacations, you need to find a mirror, bud. And then the third one is the most hilarious of all, and this is something that Susie Wiles has apparently gotten on to JD Vance about. And it is, you post too much on Twitter. Yeah, stop getting into fights on social media. She works for Donald Trump. And she has a gripe with JD Vance that, hey man, you spend too much time online. So the three big gripes: he's clumsy, he's not working too much, and he's online too much. Those are all Donald Trump. Are they confused as to who is who in this administration? Because all of those things are way more applicable to Donald Trump than they are to JD Vance. And that is a good psychological lesson for us, right? When you see traits in another person that you dislike, but then you realize, like, wait a minute, this person is basically mirroring my behavior. When I see it from the outside, I realize, hey, that's actually pretty awful. I kind of feel like that's what's happening to the White House right now, except they're not self-aware enough to understand that that is what's happening. Basically, when somebody else acts like Donald Trump and does the things that he does, he hates it. He's like, wow, what a horrible person. You're a piece of human garbage. But he lacks the connections in his brain to realize, wait a minute, that person's just doing the exact same things that I do, and I'm looking at it from the other side now. Maybe he'll get there one day, but considering they have to give him a Montreal cognitive assessment every single time he goes to the doctor, I seriously doubt his brain is in any shape to realize what it is attempting to realize right now. Thanks for watching, and if you are not already subscribed to the channel, please do so, and do not forget to like and comment and share widely among your friends.